after fire.
Welcome back to the Burnout Bobby YouTube channel. In today's video, we will be deep frying a turkey. We'll be cutting the grass. I'm going to use my 9-iron. I'm going to be putting bolts into things. All jokes aside, me working on the Ruckus. Here's another little update, I guess, from where I'm at right now. The shock arm material was ordered. It's being cut right now. So hopefully I'll have that in probably like a week, I'd say. It's been a little longer than I wanted it to be, but material was hard to find, especially in the section that I need it to be. So once it's machined, I'm going to bring it back to the house here, put it on the bike, test fit it. If it fits up good, it's off the powder coat. I have some other parts like my shock that's getting powder coated and whatnot, and then a few other little bits and pieces. I just tested out the new rear brake setup that I'm doing. Everything seems to be good to go, so that will be on the bike pretty soon since I'm not using a lever on the handlebars anymore. It's going to be a foot lever. I just started running the line for the fuel and the vacuum. Originally, I intended to do the hard line. It's just supposed to be too hard to do with the setup that I was running and trying to make it look clean. I'm not a hard line guy. I've never done like air ride or custom brake lines, anything like that. So it's kind of difficult. I had the bender, I had the straightener, I had all the tools I needed. I couldn't make it look uniform and clean enough. And I reached out to a few people that I knew had air ride in their cars and have done kits, and same thing, they said it takes a lot of experience. So I decided to pass that up. So typically with these bikes, I like to use a Tygon, like a black Tygon fuel line. Tygon is a very expensive fuel line, but it looks really good. It doesn't harden up like your typical fuel line does after, a year. It lasts pretty long. It's very soft material, so it's good for bending and whatnot. The only issue I was having with this is the running it through the frame. When I start doing bends, I don't know if you can see from the camera, but it starts to make a pinch in here where it's going to reduce the fuel flow or the airflow going into the car. So I went with a Helix line, which again is another black line, but the wall diameter is thicker. It's still a 3/16 fuel line, but when I do these bends, because it's a thicker wall, you can take that bend without losing any fuel flow or airflow. So I went this black Helix. This is the way to go, at least for my setup. Nothing wrong with the Tygon. Like I said, I've used this for years and years and years, but this right here is my my go-to. You can see it even, I don't know if the camera will pick it up. The wall diameter of it is a lot thicker, so it can help me out with doing the route that I'm running. Also, I just dropped a new t-shirt. A bunch of you guys have already gotten it. I appreciate the support. It is my Ruckus shirt. So it's got a little border. It's got the Nardo Ruck on there. Kind of like a street art design. It's got the Burnout Bobby cursive underneath. It's the Bella blend shirt, so it's not like the Gildans which shrink up. Or the one thing I don't like about the Gildans is those shirts tend to like have a flap out like this because it's one of those unisex shirts. These are kind of like the dad bod shirts that you see on Instagram or all your Facebook ads. So I like these a lot. I'll show you guys how the hoses run right now on the bike and then go over like what I'm going to do for the fuel setup. So some of you were wondering how I'm running the Mikuni fuel pump. This is how I'm running it. Fuel lines can go from here, fuel filter, to the pump. Then coming out will be the fuel line here. So I'm going to go to this wire or this hose. You can see it can make the bend no problem right in there. This one's going to be my vacuum line. It's going to come up right on top of the nipple right there. I didn't put it on yet because I am going to paint the fuel pump black. I just don't like the raw material color it is from Mikuni, so I'm going to change that.
Also, if you're ever replacing your fuel pump, make sure you get a real Mikuni one. A lot of y'all I see are getting these Amazon ones and eBay, or there's a lot of knockoff Mikunis. Get yourself a real Mikuni and you're gonna be fine. Literally, there's I know people always complain about it, but it's super simple. You bolt it up, run this to the carburetor, use a check valve. If you don't want the fuel to go back down into the bowl where you have to keep starting up the bike, it's as easy as this. It already comes on your bike on a stock Ruckus. Honda's already done the work for you. You don't have to do it that much extra. So you just put this back in the fuel line, and it's going to keep the fuel from going back down into the bowl. So you can wait 2 weeks, start the bike up, it's going to fire right up. The white bike that I did for Dean over in Oregon, I put that on his setup. He'll let the bike sit for 2-3 weeks, and it'll crank right over first start. It's not needed to go the extra mile with this. This has been the way to go for a long time. But again, you have to make sure you get the real Mikuni. I see a lot of you guys trying to save a couple bucks and get the knockoff one, and I'm almost 100% certain that's where you're having the issue with these, because you're gonna think, oh well, it looks just like Mikuni. That's the only issue. So what I'll do, like I said, is run these lines here. I'm gonna put the check valve in up over by the carb where it's a little hidden, and then we'll go around. Have the hoses running up underneath through here. They're coming out of the frame. This one runs up, wraps around to the carb right here. I could have the hose going this way, but then it would be kind of in the open. I'm trying to keep everything, if there's already space being used here, might as well utilize it for the hose to sit behind it. Keeps this all clean. The other hose is actually running underneath it for the vacuum. It comes around and then goes to the manifold here. This manifold now had this is the NCY short intake manifold. This had 2 barb fittings on it, so there was one on this side, and then there's actually one on this side here. I went on ahead and removed the barb fitting, and then I put a Allen head bolt in there, like a button head, to block it off. And of course I use like RTV just to seal it off, make sure it doesn't pull any vacuum leaks for that. A lot of y'all were really liking the brake setup from the last video. I've given out the information on it. It's probably one of my favorite things because it's so different. It's so dusty. Then I have the add-on caliper. The brake line's going to go up, or the brake switch, the pressure switch is going to go up. What I'm going to do is have it go parallel like this with the brake line, follow way up through here, and then I left these 2 wires right here for these to plug into. I will probably shorten it because they gave you a substantial amount, and I'm going to leave at least 1 inch or so for room to allow for turning. So that will be good. I will be bleeding the brakes probably next week for this, so I'm going to go over some tips with it. I know I thought I would do it in this video. I'm waiting for a couple more little things to show up. Once they do, then I'll show you guys the quick way to bleed these add-on brakes, because it can be a pain. Also, I know a few of you were excited about the spree build I'm doing, because I'm bringing like an old bike, like from the 80s back to life. And you saw it was a rust bucket. I was able to grab another one. This one I believe will run. I just need to put a battery on it. I think it's the same year. It's all white. I picked up for a good price. It apparently has one of those Chinese big bore kits on it, so we'll see. It does have an aftermarket carb because they cut out half the fairing for it. So take a look at this. So now I have 2 sprees. I got the one right there that I have the gy6 motor with the skidding wheels that I'm going to make the mount for. But I actually think I'm going to put it on this one and then just swap out the cleaner plastics for this here. So you can see they cut out the old fender for this big carburetor. So it's got a slide carb on it. I really don't know much about any of this. So once I get a battery, I will go on ahead and see if it will turn over. I checked with the Kickstarter. It does, the motor has not seized. It does make compression strokes, so that's a good sign. And I think this is what I'm going to put the gy6 in. So essentially I'm putting the Ruckus triple tree in it. I'm going to slam this bike, make the custom motor mount for it, stretch it just a little bit, not a lot, because I actually want to do like wheelies with this thing, and then re-brace it because the bike is so light and the frame is so thin. Putting that big motor in it, it's going to warp the frame. So to avoid that, I'm going to push some structure bars in there just to keep it braced. I think I'm really excited about this build. And then lastly, look at my son, man. He's 9 months old. How does this happen? This ain't right. I got this one on sale with Wayfair. So this one was a really good price. And then someone in my community was like, hey, I have one we're giving away for free. It doesn't have a charger. And I'm like, all right, I'll grab it. It's got like Bluetooth speakers. I mean, this thing's good to go, but that one I'm actually going to probably do like a little build series on. I'm going to take it all apart, sand it down, paint it. I'm going to lower it, put some dish wheels on it, and then do the two 24-volt battery swap on it as well. So when he's older, probably like 3 years old, 4 years old, I'll put him in that with a helmet. This one I got just because it had a remote control and stuff like that, so I can control it. But this kid's stunting. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. But I hope you guys have enjoyed these videos. I know they're short. I know there's not a lot going on in it. It's tough. I have to be patient too, because when you're getting custom parts made, it takes a while. Like I said, those brake levers took me about 3 months to get. And then finding the brake line, finding the banjo bolts for it took like another month because everything was out of stock. And right now with the custom shock arm, I'm waiting for that. The brakes, the rear brake setup, like I said, is all done. It's good to go. I do have to trim the side skirts that I have, which is kind of tough because it is fiberglass and it is painted already. So I'm going to have to heat that up with a heat gun and then go over it as gently as I can with a Dremel. This is stuff that should typically be done when you're starting the build. I made the mistake of putting stuff on later. After I already had parts painted, I was like, oh, I want to change this, I want to change that. So that's my own fault for that. But right now it's just about having patience. Once that shock arm comes in, put it on, powder coat it, and then I'll actually have like a full roller. And I'm just going to go through the whole bike probably in one weekend and get it up and running and then take it first drive. After that, I'm going to get Matos Media on board, and they're going to do a full video shoot with me. I'm pumped for that. And then I'm going to do the release of that video on YouTube. So y'all won't see the bike when it's done. I'm not going to post anything until we do that professional shoot with Matos Media. Again, I hope you guys like, share, and subscribe. If you want one of these shirts, shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or my email, which I believe is on YouTube here. And I'll catch you on the next one.